Hey there, lovely people, and welcome to the Gamers Rest. My name is Tao, and in this show, Tao Talks, I get a chance to talk with talented individuals involved in the TTRPG scene. This week, we have the creative mind behind Shadomain, and one of the creators and developing a new TTRPG, Six Gun Doomsday, Jaosn Campbell. Hello.
Hey, thanks.
No, my pleasure. Thank you for coming on. So much to talk to you about today, and there's a ton of stuff going on for yourself as so. But for those of you that haven't met you before, do you want to just give us a breakdown of who you are and where people can find you?
Sure. I'm Jaosn, usually Jaosn C, but you'll find me everywhere all over the interwebs as Shadomain, Shadomain, including our website, shadomain.com. where we publish articles, interviews, news, reviews every week. And then sometimes, when we finally get around to it, we publish adventures, RPG games, things like that. And we're working on this larger game, larger than most of our projects.
Yeah.
Six Gun Doomsday coming up.
Yeah, which I've been lucky enough to have a bit of a preview of, and it looks fantastic. So I'm really excited to talk about that today. But first, I'm always curious to know, how did you get started in the industry? What was the kind of point where it all became, I guess, maybe real's the wrong word, but your journey began?
Yeah, so in the industry is a lot different than gaming.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess. I started with the red box, the mold vase set initially, and played all through that. I did take a few decades off, which I'm learning is actually a pretty common thing. I didn't realize so many people left and came back, just like I did. Came back to 5e and just was completely absorbed. And I started, I'm a forever GM by choice. That's mostly what I like.
Yeah.
So I started running games, and I'm running games here and my friends in local game stores and all this. And so in the past, I'd also been a web developer in my quote unquote real life. So it was easy for me to say, hey, I need to tell somebody about this stuff and just start my own website. So I started that really before I knew what I was doing in the industry. And I just started talking. And, the more you talk to people, the more they'll talk to you. And pretty soon we were doing interviews with, and I should say my partner, Gamer Mom Luna, already had a different foot in the industry. She runs an internet talk show. She does voice acting and things like that. So she knew a whole bunch of different people, and we were interviewing. We got a lot of great responses with our interviews from people that were very kind to do our interviews back when very few people were reading. Anyway, so that's how I started, and I had. For a few years, I actually taught Dungeons and Dragons at an online school to tweens and teens.
Oh, amazing.
And out of that, I ended up having to develop my own intro one-shot. So I had run this thing, I don't know how many times. So I said, maybe somebody else can use this now that I've refined it. And I published it. And then I was like, this is kind of fun. Let me try it. I wrote this too. Let me try to do that. And through my day job, I'm a graphic designer, so I could do my own layout and to some extent illustration.
It does make a big difference.
So I guess I had advantages that most people don't.
But yeah, most of us are kind of trying to find like the free art and the free, systems to be able to just get things straight on our page.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a lot out there, I should say.
Oh yeah, definitely.
If anybody's in that space where you're a writer, you'll somehow get through layout, but you need the illustrations. You can, there's some art that you can find that's free for use. Also, there are a lot of up-and-coming artists on drive-through, and you can just go and buy for commercial use a lot of really great art.
Yeah, absolutely. I know someone that was, they obviously did a lot of art, but they did a lot of practice art as well. And they just were just like, well, I'll just put this up there, and if people want to use it, fantastic, it gets my name out there. But really good quality stuff as well, but not the kind of commercial stuff they were selling at the time. So
Yeah.
there's some great stuff
Yeah.
out there. There really is.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky enough. I've been on Luna's talk show a couple of times myself as well, which is always great fun. So I can see how the two of you mesh well together in terms of that passion for, talking to people about the industry, and obviously I think it clearly works very well for you both.
Yeah, we were coming at it from different places, so it was perfect that we
Yeah.
kind of merged our friend list. I don't. I I mean, for those who don't know, Luna or I, we got married last
Yeah,
July,
I
so
saw that. It's
now we're
amazing.
not just partners; we're partners.
So how did what was the kind of, I guess, decision point where you went, okay, I'm going to actually build this website and start to talk to people? Was there like a defining moment which kind of switched you across to that from what you were doing?
Um, well, at first the website, at first the website was just a place for. It was like old school blog sites. It was just a
Yep.
place for me to put stuff whenever it came up, and I think when I started really um, like taking a deep dive into how this game works and how can you get better. So
Mm.
I was like listening to podcasts and YouTube and watching Professor DM and Seth Skorkowski and a lot of the names you know about how to get better. And I realized that wait a minute, I am writing some of this stuff that's just as valuable.
Mm, yeah, absolutely.
But it took me a while to get it going to the point that I said, well, not I, we,
Mm.
Luna helped a lot, that we could do this weekly.
Yeah.
And it's been usually at least two articles a week for,
Mm.
I forget, 2 or 3 years now, which is a lot.
Yeah.
At times we've had stuff stacked up, and at times I'm writing stuff Saturday for a Monday review. Um, but you know what? I found that I enjoy this. Like, I've had a bunch of hobbies through the years, but it doesn't stress me out, not so far. I like, creating adventures, and I like writing for the website as much.
Yeah.
And that's so right. Don't burn yourself out.
No.
Don't stress yourself out because you think you should do something. If I had to give advice, not that you
Mm.
asked, but
No, absolutely.
but yeah, that's really what it was. Is I saw that other people were sort of giving back, if that's a trite term,
Mm.
and I was like, I could do this too. I've got
Yeah.
a lot of experience here, so.
And there's some great
But
articles
and a
on
lot
there.
of it was
Yeah.
learning as much as giving, though. Like I had all these experiences and things that I wrote about, but we also tried to get as many guest writers as we could
Mm.
because it's not just my mouthpiece. And we got a lot of interviews.
Yeah.
It's more about, well, not more. It's a lot about me talking, just like this, because I don't stop. But it's I want it to be as much about the community.
Mm.
So it's a place where people can read and talk, and that's why I'm out there on every social media to
Hmm.
saying things that you may agree with, saying things that you might not agree with, but it's all good.
It sparks conversation, doesn't it? And I think that's always a great place to
That's
be.
the
Is to,
idea.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And yes, I would recommend anybody that's listening, do go and check it out. There's some fantastic stuff on there, and even if you just just from a place to see what other people are thinking, and where the industry is at the moment, it's quite a good gauge as to what are the main talking points that are going on with our industry at the moment. So it's really, really great stuff. How do you decide what you're going to put up and what you're going to write about next? Is there like a grand plan? You've got like a 6 month article plan, or is it more, this is what I feel like today?
How far ahead you plan is completely variable.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a long time, sometimes it's not. But there's always a store. There's an idea file. Um, so there's always a number of ideas um, in the cooler, I guess, that
Yeah.
we pull from. Um, and we do a lot of reviews too. I don't. I'm not really concerned. Well, first of all, we're not looking for clicks. We're a blog site anyway, so
Yeah.
whatever. Come and read it if you want. So we don't do that, the hate stuff, right?
Hmm.
Like we
Yeah.
we basically, I don't, you can agree or disagree. We don't review anything that we really didn't like. We're
Yeah.
just gonna, yeah, that's
It's
not our thing, and
it's
there's no
yeah.
reason for me to talk about that.
It's
But
your,
it doesn't mean
it's
that
your
I
work.
won't.
Yeah.
Right, we'll legitimately
Mm.
review something. We'll say, hey, this is what we liked. I wasn't crazy about this,
Mm. Yeah.
but I'm not gonna, you know what I mean. I'm not gonna write
Yeah.
about something
Absolutely.
that's just trash. So there's a bunch of that because we're on the media list for companies like Kobo Press and Monty Cook
Mm.
Games and things like that. So we get a lot of previews.
Oh, amazing.
And then, most of the time, I'm buying this stuff on my own anyway, whether they send it to me or not. And so I review a lot of that. So that helps. There's usually at least one a month that's a review.
Mm.
But aside from the ideas, like I said, I listen to a lot, corner maybe too much stuff from other people, and sometimes it'll inspire stuff. That's where the
Mm.
idea file grows. Not that I'm going to parrot what somebody else said because it's already out there,
Yeah.
but maybe I'll disagree with it, or maybe I'll have a different view of it.
Mm.
It's that kind of thing. A lot of it comes up in games. I'm in a lot of discords, and as well as all the other typical social media.
Yeah.
I see other things come up, and I start to think about it, and that's where most of the ideas come from.
Mm.
Somebody will say. In fact, let's see. I've got an article coming up that came out of a comment on a Facebook group I'm in.
Okay.
Somebody didn't understand something about the cipher system, and to me that was like, oh, that's because of the philosophy behind the system. So it ended up like one question spurred a whole article.
But that's, I mean, I think that's really interesting because you've got all this freedom, but it's about things people are going to have a genuine interest about because it's obviously if it's sparked by other conversations and what people are talking about, then it's got some purpose behind it rather than just pluck X out of the air. It's I guess you've got your community almost at the heart of what you're writing.
Yeah, if I had to give advice, and sometimes I do, um, yeah, being part of the community is just important for anybody doing anything
Yeah.
in this space. Even if you aren't, because you just want to play and GM, you will make connections. You don't have to network. It's not an activity, but it's
Yep.
important. People, I run into a lot of young people like straight out of art school or something, looking to that will cold call you. You're like, well, you'll get better responses if you're a part of the community. People
Yep.
understand that you're supporting them. They're going to turn
Absolutely.
around and help you.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
mean, because as much as you hear about like how negative this social media is or
Mm.
another, and it's true, but that's because everything, when you're this big, as big as this community has become, there are going to be
Yep.
some bad actors.
Yeah, of
But
course.
it's just almost unbelievable um, how people will help each other.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
didn't, people that I've never met in real life. Some of them I've never even had a phone conversation with. But I've helped them. They'll help me, and
Mm.
especially when we were just getting started.
It is true. Someone once said, "Oh, you can't have real friends and real connections if you're just on the internet with people." And I was just like, "Well, that's not how it works." I think you get these great communities, and the amount of stuff they share and tell each other and help each other is incredible and lift each other up. You're quite right because the community is so big, there are issues, but in terms of lifting each other up, I don't think there are many other communities which work so hard to kind of push each other up and celebrate each other's success, as it were.
I think that's true. That you hear sometimes the bad actors get loud,
Yeah,
and people will condemn the whole, you know, community or whatever.
yeah,
But because I've been involved in other things, other parts of graphic design and stuff like that, and it's not near. It could get worse. It's not
yes,
nearly this
yep.
positive.
Oh yeah, hundred
It
percent.
is funny though what you
Yes.
said about your friends over the internet because
Mm,
we don't get to go to a lot of conventions, but we
no.
try to get to at least a couple a year. And sometimes I meet people there and I forget that we've never met in real life. We'll be like, oh, wait, we don't,
We don't
I have to
actually, yeah.
introduce myself. I forgot we don't know each other.
It's just. I mean, I've made some of the best people I know. I've made as just playing D&D and just chatting to people. And
Yeah.
I do think we're very lucky from that aspect that we get such great people. But the thing
Yeah.
I really want to talk to you about, which is the thing I'm genuinely excited about, is Six Gun Doomsday. So it's a
Yeah.
work in progress, but what can you share with the audience about this new TTRPG that you're designing?
Yeah. What it is. So it is a, it will end up being a game and a setting and an adventure or a
Hmm.
series of adventures. And what it is the inspiration is it's a combination of Weird West and Gothic horror and post apocalypse. So we mashed all of this together. Sometimes it gets tagged as Weird West, but that's like just a part of it.
Yeah.
It involves uh, a Weird West scenario after a near world ending apocalypse. But in this case, the apocalypse is not nuclear or alien invasions; it's a Gothic horror explosion. So the apocalypse is, specters and wraiths and demons and everything just
So
exploding
cool.
for reasons that nobody knows yet. Play the adventure, and so you end up with that combination. So it's you know it's like some other games. It's like pieces of other games,
Yeah.
and it's interesting because of that combination. That just when you say I'm going to be Wyatt Earp, uh, you know, Dracula comes up behind you or something like that. Or just when you think you're going to be Van Helsing, you starve to death because there's no food because it's an apocalypse.
Yeah. See, that's really interesting because you've got like three cornerstones you can touch on, and they're all got their own issues. But when you kind of combine them, that's definitely when you get the feeling that
Yeah.
nothing like that's kind of been done. That I really love that. So how did the
So
sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, so the game itself is a variation, a modification of the Cipher system,
Yeah.
Monty Cook's sort of universal game engine. A couple of years ago, they released an open license, which lets you use the core mechanics and write your own thing. And it's great because people have done this, basically writing their own flavored adventure, or just like KedHub, another
Yeah.
Cipher YouTube streamer. He has a new game which it's kind of Cipher, but he really modified it a lot, and that's where we're sort of in the middle there. So it will be self-contained.
Yeah.
Um, so you won't. Hmm, don't tell Monty I said that, or Charles. You don't need to buy the Cipher rules. You can ask me later. You should still buy them because it's an
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing book outside of the
Absolutely. Yeah.
mechanics. Anyway, so this will be a game with those mechanics and a bunch of modifications to accommodate like the horror apocalypse part of it.
Yeah. And how did the idea come about?
Yeah, it's kind of a long story, but you asked, so it's not
No,
my
this
fault.
no, absolutely.
So I'm fortunate that my local game store right down the street has Saturday games, and we have like there's three tables. Two of them will be Adventure League D&D, and one will be anything but D&D. So there's a small group of us who get together and we just rotate. We play a different, oh, this is Monster of the Week this week. Now it's Alien, and we take turns GMing. So I had this audience. And one time I was like, all right, I want to try Index Card RPG, Runehammer game, good game. Um, and ICRPG is a simplified game system, really maybe rules light depending on how you look at it, but it's a cross genre kind of thing, so it doesn't have a particular setting. But in the back of the book, it has five different settings suggested, like fantasy. And so I was like, I don't know. What do you guys want to play? I had a group of players said, all right, we'll do that. I said, so I threw out a couple of those settings. And I think it ended up tied between like Weird West and post apocalypse. So I was like, close enough. Wait till you see what I come up with. And I ended up doing this. So it really came out of me needing just a one shot. And I was like, it'd be spookier if the apocalypse was like ghosts and gothic horror kind of stuff. And it was funny because the feedback. So afterwards, because we're playing new games all the time, we always talk about it afterwards. And honestly, some of the players liked ICRPG, some of them didn't, but they were all like, "Oh my god, that setting's awesome." So then I took it to multiple places and I played it in other systems.
Yeah.
ICRPG, Easy D6. I used the basic role-playing engine from Chaosium. I played it all different places, and pretty much that's the feedback I get is this setting would be really cool. So, like, well, I got plenty of free time, right? Let me just write some. Let me just spend 6 months or a year. It'll be fine. If folks that know me know that I play as many systems as I can, but really Cypress system has been my favorite for a long time. You can tell in my writing. So that was natural to me. I know more people in that community and even in the company.
Yeah.
So that's where I started with first. Well, plus they have the open license I could use.
Yes. Yeah. So, makes a big difference. And so when you,
but yeah, I mean, knowing a system you get a big task on your hand if you're writing a game based on a system you don't know very well.
Oh God, yeah.
So I know the inside of this system, so I know how I can manipulate it without breaking it.
Yeah, because I mean that's the thing, isn't it? Is that it's all very well putting it together, but you've got to watch out for those breaks where all it takes is one person to take one thing the wrong way, and the whole thing's kind of out the window. So yeah, absolutely.
And I didn't mean to say that as if like playtesting isn't a thing, because I have playtested this a lot, and that's what I'm doing now. I am a big believer in playtesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Not that, I mean, you have to filter the responses
what comes back. Yes,
but
you're otherwise
if you're writing a game, it's really important for you to not just play it with your friends and at cons, but give it to somebody else and don't tell them anything and have them run it, because that's how you'll find out editing wise what's missing in your like notes to the GM.
Definitely.
You've always got something in your head that you don't realize is there, like an assumption that everybody else needs.
People always, definitely. So when you start a project like this, what's your starting point? Where do you begin when you're putting something like this together?
Well, first, I guess I have to fess up and say I have a day job, and my day job is as a project manager. I've got a little bit of a
that makes it a little bit easier.
I do. This is what I do all day long. So I'm going to start with an outline of milestones.
Yeah.
Because if you dive into your, I'm gonna create a new class for this. So now I'm getting into the details of the class. And you don't know where your game's going.
Yeah.
You've kind of, it's like a funnel, right? You've got to zero in on those details when you get there. But from a project management point of view, so wait a minute, let me back up because I'm not really answering a question.
That's okay.
So I wanted to find the genre, because besides those three things I said, I kind of need to know what's the goal, what's the theme, what are the tones we're going for, that kind of thing. But it's bullet points in the beginning. You don't want to start with page 1 and end on page 300. It doesn't work that way. From a playtesting point of view, it's good if you can get some of the mechanics tried out. And this is where the kill your darlings thing matters, though, because you've got to be willing to realize things don't work. Yeah. Let's see. Does that at all answer the question?
Yeah, no, I think it does. I think it's interesting because I chat to a lot of people, and their kind of experiences do make a difference as to how they approach the projects. So like you said, because that is your day job, it sounds like you've got a very methodical process that allows you to know which direction you're going. Whereas I know a few people that will just chuck a load of ideas down on a piece of paper and go, right, and then try and sort it all out from there. So, it's interesting. It's very interesting.
Well, in this project, in fact, the adventure part of it is actually still in flux more than anything else. But that's not typically the way I work. It just happens to be it because this is more comprehensive than most.
Yeah.
When I'm writing an adventure, that's more what I'm concerned about. So that's still the adventure part of it is very fuzzy. I have a few one shots. I know there's going to be like a longer form mini adventure that is still in process.
Yeah. And what do you find challenging about the process? What's the thing that you kind of not struggle with, but maybe your least favorite part of the whole process?
Well, if I include like self-publishing, layout is the worst part of the process. But as far as the creative, right, as a graphic designer, I
Yeah.
can say that I can't stand it. But anyway, I guess that's not really the question. It's more applicable. What's the hardest part of the creative process?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of speed bumps in the road. But if you're working on a long project like this one has turned out to be, um, getting past the writer's block. You'll say if you're working on something for 6 months, you will have a week, 2 weeks where you'll think, I just have no ideas. And it's that is the hardest part is realizing that that is a temporary thing
Yeah.
and that's not where you throw it out. And you just go, I'm, I can't do this. That it's going to get better. That you're going to suddenly have you'll have a day where you'll have 1,000 ideas and you won't be able to write them down fast enough. Um, and when you get to the point where that's frustrating, sometimes you need to just, sometimes you just need to take a break, get away from it for a day or two, right? Go, I don't know. I'm in New Hampshire. Maybe you go leaf peeping in the mountains. but but sometimes you need to just get something done. So you go back. So you want to go back to the simplest thing you can do. I need to, this adventure needs a calendar. I'm going to build a calendar.
Yeah.
Just something that maybe is boring, so you never bothered with it. But just so the next day you can say, "Well, I did that," and you can build off of that. You can get something. You can make some progress
Yeah. Yeah.
while you're because while you're doing that, something will happen in the back of your head, and you'll get through that big idea that you were having trouble with before.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I know that you're looking for people to get involved and do some running of the using the system, aren't you, to get some more playtesting done?
Yeah, I've run a lot of one shots myself, but I would say it's always good to have other people run this. So to that end, we're putting together the adventures that you could run either as a one shot, maybe 5 or 6 sessions, something like that.
Yeah.
It'd be great to get the word out, if
Definitely.
anybody has a stream that they could run it on. But the idea would be to package it up with like enough of the rules that you can run it. So here's the pre-gens here, with the explanations built into the character sheet, if in case you're not a cipher expert or something like that.
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
there's enough in that package to run the whole game.
And so people can just get in touch with you via the website and let you know they're interested and get some further information.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah,
What's
we
the
also, I should say, we recently started, besides doing the website, we have an email newsletter, but the email list will
okay?
get you. We started publishing a free PDF zine every month. So the first of every month is a new
Nice.
mini zine out there, which is not content from the website. It's a chunk of Six Gun Doomsday that you could like use. So here's some new abilities, or here's some background, or here's some story
Oh
adventure,
yeah,
that kind of thing. And
that's
then
cool.
there's stuff like cartoons and art, and then there's freebies like NPCs that you could drop into any 5e based game or a magic item. things like that. So that's all free digital. You just sign up for the email, you get access to that. It's
Oh,
print on demand, but then you're on your own for shipping
yeah,
because
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, in these times, definitely. What's the? I mean, is this something that you're maybe looking to get to Kickstarter to kind of do the big package, or what's the
yeah.
final goal for it? Yeah. Okay.
Um, I will. I think I'll need Kickstarter for a number of reasons. I have some advantages. I can do my own layout.
Yeah.
Luna's a good proofreader, editor, but I can't do everything in house. And
Yeah.
there's a few things in particular. So the goal would be to crowdfund it. I don't know if
Yeah.
it'd be Kickstarter or backer kit
One of
yet,
the two. Yeah.
but notably, this is particularly a bad time of the year. So
Yes.
although don't tell Matt Colville I said that because he just made was it $4 million last December?
Yeah.
But typically it's a bad time of the
For
year.
most of us.
So
Yeah.
I'll probably look at like maybe February-ish,
Yeah.
something like that. But there's a number of things. I mean, we're telling stories shortly after the U.S. Civil War, at a time when the United States was expanding, you know, um, into areas that they did not own, and there were people already there. So there's a number of issues
Ooh.
um, that will need to be written about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not that
Absolutely.
you have to use it in your game. You can.
No,
It's a
but
fantasy version. You can do whatever you want.
yeah. Yeah.
But
Of
I
course.
need to get sensitivity readers and
Yeah.
editors for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's
Definitely.
something I can't take on myself. So
And
yeah,
it's a
I
really
need the crowdfunding at least to help me out with that.
it's a really good point because I think sometimes we forget that you know not all of us are going to be attuned to the needs of our customers in certain areas. So sensitivity readers are so important, and
The
they
game itself, in a lot of ways, leans into like the Western movies and TVs of the 50s. But I don't want to pretend that the rest of it didn't happen. If you want, it
yeah
was there in real life. That's part of your game. And I don't want to write around that.
no
So
yeah
your game can be Gunsmoke, and that's cool because this doesn't take place on Earth. It's an alternate version of Earth.
yeah
So that's all cool. In fact,
but
I have speaking of Gunsmoke, we've got mechanics built in specifically to make like gunfights, like the standoffs, duels, to make them more dramatic, make them feel
nice.
like a
I
black
love
and white.
that.
Yeah,
That's very cool. Yeah, I must admit I do like I like the mechanics that can bring the story to life rather than them being a kind of barrier to telling the story. So yeah, anything that makes it
yeah.
dramatic and
So in this
exciting is
case,
worthwhile.
yeah, in that particular case, we looked back and said, well, wait a minute, because one of the problems with any TTRPG that has combat, you've got two guys standing 10 paces apart, draw their guns. Well, they each make it to hit roll and one of them dies. It's like as undramatic as it could
Yep.
get. Versus in the movies, it was this giant buildup, right? So,
Yeah.
so the mechanics aren't about who hits and who misses and how much damage does a 6-shooter do. It's about like calling that person out and doing something dramatic, things that happen in the environment, just
Nice.
just things to make it more. And I should say it's an optional rule. If you want to, if you're only concerned about the battle grid and
Yeah.
that kind of thing, and that's the game you want to play, then
Go for it.
that's fine too. But
But the thematic kind of drama of it, yeah, you're quite right. I mean,
right, like let the players throw out a challenge, throw out an insult, something like that, and the bad guys do the same.
that's it sounds amazing. It really does. So you talked about this a little bit, but what other advice can you give people that are looking to break into the industry and take it on and do something with it?
Um, yeah, it's funny. I was just talking to Sean Reynolds from Monty Cook about this. This depends on, because people ask that question two different ways. How can you break into the industry like I am? This is my side gig, right? And I'm not going to be a full-time writer at WotC. Or some people will ask, how do I get, a job in the industry, which is a different question.
Yes.
But the important thing in sort of either one of those scenarios is what we were talking about earlier is be a part of the community. That the more, it doesn't mean you knock on every, you throw, well, it doesn't mean necessarily that you're like an obnoxious aluminum siding salesman knocking on every door.
Yep.
If anybody knows what aluminum siding is anymore, I'm old. But it is important to like talk to people. If you want people to, if you want some YouTuber to review your product and talk about it, have you ever talked to this person? Do you comment on their YouTube channels?
Yeah.
Are you in their Discord? And not that you're trying to do that in a kind of using way, but there are great people out there. You can learn from them.
Yes.
And yeah, they'll help you out. So general networking, which is not particularly helpful tip. But the other thing is persistence. And this is what I was talking to Sean about. If you look around and you can't find a submission email, or we're not taking submissions or something like that, if you turn around and say, well, I guess I can't go that way, they don't know you're there, right? You can always try a little bit. You're not going to be annoying to people, but you can always try. And if you've submitted something, you should always follow up, because these people are really busy. The industry is crazy, but it's tiny, and they're getting a lot of submissions. And the idea that you're paying attention and you're going to be there for them, that kind of thing, is really important. Unfortunately, maybe fortunately, persistence is hugely important in that case.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's very easy to get lost in the, I guess, magic of, I'm going to be writing and designing, creating these amazing things. Yes, but guess what? There is a whole business bit behind it. You're going to have to master that as well, because you can have the greatest ideas, but if no one knows you're there, who you are, or anything about you, it's very rare you're going to break into.
Yeah, this is true because I happen to have stopped along the way in a lot of other artistic kind of things. It's true of every creative discipline there is, that anybody who's a professional spends more time marketing, selling, communicating than they do actually doing the thing.
Yep.
If they're a painter, they're spending more time doing that. You could hope maybe you'll get so famous that you hire other people to do the stuff you don't like.
That'd be nice, yeah.
On the way, you're going to have to do those kind of things. And that's where you can, if you're open to taking advice, right? Because along the way, you're going to try to knock on these doors and sell stuff, send stuff. And there'll be people along the way that are better at social media and marketing than you are. And if they're there suggesting things, listen. Not everything will be gold, but there are people who will help you along the way.
Definitely.
And I'm still along the way, by the way. So.
Well, I am still very much on the way as well. I've done a few bits, but I've still got a long way to go. But that's, I guess there's a realization, isn't there, is that, the kind of overnight successes don't really exist, or they're very, very, very rare. If you want this to happen, you've got to put in the work.
Yeah. The business itself has changed. That's what I was saying about, do I want a full-time job? Because if you ask Chris Perkins, Monty Cook, Bruce Cord, any of these people that have been in the industry a long time, how did you get started? They'll tell you the story, but they'll also tell you that avenue doesn't exist anymore.
Yep.
The business has just changed.
Yeah,
so
100%.
It's a cool story. Listen to them talk, but they will tell you that, you need to do it today's way, not the way it worked in the 90s.
Yeah, definitely. We're kind of almost at our time, which is a bit of a shame. But
I know.
my last question is the question I always ask everybody: how do you deal with social media? Because some people find it very straightforward and love it, and some people will hate it with a passion. What's your strategy for using it to the best of your ability?
I don't know if I have a strategy.
Okay.
It's important to be connected. That if you only do something every few weeks, you need to be more active than that. Um, you need to be. That's why I say you need to be involved, right? So as much time as you spend posting, hey, I did this. Hey, this is what I think. You need to be reacting to other people and say, hey, you know what? That makes a lot of sense too. That's part of the community building.
Yep.
But there's sometimes when you're going to get all like overly negative people for that are just that trolls, and there's sometimes when you're going to need to feel free to block people because your own mental health is important.
Yeah, definitely.
But there'll be times when you need to ignore things. There's also, and this is a personality thing for me, a lot of times I have the energy to react to something, and I have to say, I am going to reply to this in 6 hours or tomorrow, because that reply will be much better thought out and not as reactive in a bad
Yes.
way.
Yep.
Yeah, that I need to stop and think about things. That may not
Yeah.
be true for you, but yeah.
But it's generally a
Because
good
the thing
idea,
about
isn't it?
social media is you're missing everything. You're missing all the nuance. Right? Like even you and I are like, we're an ocean apart, but at least we could see each other's faces.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
A lot of when you see that back and forth like argument that goes on for 30 replies, either in Discord or Reddit or whatever it is, if they were sitting at a cafe having coffee, that would have been
Wouldn't
a
even.
miscommunication for 30
Yeah.
seconds, and they would laugh about it and it'd be over. And we're
Exactly. Yeah.
just missing that. And that's why I try to take that extra time, because part of my reaction is not just based on the words on the screen, it's based on my assumptions.
Yep.
And a lot of the times, those assumptions won't be correct. So
Yeah.
I
Like you
try to
said.
take, I guess that means take everything with a grain of salt,
Yeah. You
maybe.
only
But
get half the story, don't you? It's you don't know where that person's coming from, and
yeah,
with the best will in the world, we you're going off just the words on a piece of paper.
it's a rough world. I mean,
It is.
we wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to do what we do without social media. But
No.
doesn't yeah,
It
nothing's
has
perfect.
its
It doesn't come
yeah,
without its bad
absolutely.
days.
It has its issues.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been so great to talk to you today. I'm really excited about Six Gun Doomsday. I think it's going to be. I think it's got potential to be something really incredible. And so, if people do want to look at getting themselves the preview copy with details about how they can run it for their own stream, you should definitely get in touch, because I think you're going to have a lot of fun with it, especially with that mixture of some fantastic settings there. Just to close out, do you just want to remind everyone where they can find you and how they can get in touch?
Yeah, so the website is shadomain.com. That's ShadoMain. I have to say that because there's no W in it. And that's a long story, which you can probably read somewhere on the website. Anyway, shadomain.com. You can reach us directly at shadowmainrpg@gmail.com. That's on the website too. Everywhere else in the social media world, we're just Shadowmain. That's the benefit of making up a word. You can get it
Yes,
everywhere.
you've got it everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm all over Discord too, especially if you're a Cypher person. They can't get me to shut up on the Cypher Unlimited Discord, which is a fan-run Discord for everything Monty Cook. It's like 7,500 members or something now. It's just enormous.
Wow. Brilliant.
Oh.
Oh. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. No,
That's
absolutely, my
great.
pleasure. And like I said, I'm sure that Six Gun Doomsday is really going to kick off, and I think it could be something really special. But yeah, do go and check out the website. Do go and get involved as well. Join the Discord, and as I said, reach out and talk to people. You'll be amazed at what you
Yeah.
can learn. But that is it from us today. Thanks so much for everyone popping by. It's always greatly appreciated. You can follow me across the social media under the Gamer's Rest. And do come back again next time when once more I'll be talking to people in the TTRP industry. Take care, everyone. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks.